Damn them! Fight for all your worst soldiers! We've got to win this!
Sisters! Fight by my side!
Hey everybody, it's the last Robo-Kai here, and it's time for Soulstorm. But it's not time for Soulstorm as I was hoping to do it. I'm just going to take a moment just to explain to everybody, this will not be a full campaign playthrough. I had intended to do it, I did a vote on it, and everyone chose the Sisters of Battle. Very sorry to say that due to technical difficulties behind this game, it's extremely difficult to get through an entire campaign recording things without having to do a whole lot of finicky nonsense, and I tried a whole lot of different ways to get around it, and it just meant that I was going to be spending a lot of time like replaying the same missions over and over again to hope that things wouldn't break. Attempts to mod the problems out didn't really work. In fact, the problem that I'm looking at, I've even heard, unless I was like reading a news post right or wrong, sorry, may even suggest that the problem hasn't been entirely fixed in even some of these mods that like are supposed to fix things. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. So what I've decided to do instead is the first mission, the video for today, I will show off the Sisters of Battle. We'll talk about their units. We'll talk a little bit about how the Soulstorm campaign is supposed to work and why it's more maligned than usual in regards to Dark Crusade. And then we're going to do a stronghold mission, which will be the Sisters of Battle fighting the Imperial Guard, as it will sort of help highlight as well the differences in the narrative delivery of how Soulstorm was delivered. And then after that, I'll do exactly the same with the second faction that was added in Soulstorm, the Dark Elder. So I'll get 4 videos out of that, and then I'm going to open up the Unification mod, and I'm not going to show off a huge amount from that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably from that show off one of the modded game modes that was created during Dark Crusade that has persisted over to Soulstorm, while using a existing faction to show how the modders have sort of piled more into an existing faction, which I think is probably going to be the Tau, because I really want to use the Riptide. And then after that, I will probably do another game or another thing with a whole messing around with the different fully fresh modded in factions that some modders have made. Don't know how many of those I'll do, but it's it's on the table so long as I can get it working. I haven't actually sort of bolted Unification properly into Soulstorm at the moment. I tried when I was trying to fix the problems with other stuff, and then I ripped it back out again and reinstalled everything because it wasn't working out, and I still couldn't fix the problem. I will describe the problem when we get to the end of the Stronghold mission, because, surprise, it starts when you do a Stronghold mission. But with that very long preamble out of the way, I would like to say I am sorry. I would love to play more of Soulstorm, even though it is quite a difficult game to play through from start to finish. But it's just not going to happen for the sake of my sanity and also for my hard drive, which has to store numerous failed attempts as the game crashes itself on me. So, with that out of the way, we still have the Sisters of Battle, the introduction, and everything to go on, and we'll have a moment to talk about everything there. And joining me on this adventure is Cool Guy.
As usual.
Yeah. The Strongholds also will sort of help let us have a little bit of lore chat, because I know everyone likes lore chat, and it'll give us a little bit to talk about with the Sisters of Battle and the Dark Eldar, who I think around the time that Soulstorm got released had sort of relatively fresh codices. Sisters of Battle had Witch Hunters, and the Dark Eldar were just much like the Tau and the Necrons, a freshly sprung up concept. They'd been hinted at, but they'd never actually really done a full concept like that. So it'll give us a chance to talk about that, and then how the Dark Eldar also got refined and revised in terms of an army after the first Codex, after Soulstorm. So after all of that big waffle, we might as well get the campaign started, because as before, it has a very long introduction involving what the hell is going on in the Korrivar system. Because unlike Dark Crusade, which took place on Cronus, this is taking place in an entire system, which means multiple planets, moons, and shenanigans. So let's get stuck straight in.
It was the sudden appearance of a warp storm at the Korrivar system's outer edge that first caught the attention of the Imperium, and not just the Imperium. After hundreds of years under the neglectful watch of the Imperial Guard, nearly every force in the galaxy would descend upon the planet of Korrivar, bent only on domination and victory. 3 races had long dwelled in there. The Imperial Guard, its supposed rulers, the Orc tribes of Korrivar II, which the Guard had never successfully put down, and the Necron, who had slept undisturbed for untold millennia beneath Korrivar III. Where the Chaos Marines came from, or how, none can say. Did the Warp Storm bring them, or did they bring the Warp Storm? Both appeared suddenly on Korrivar IV, and in an eye blink, half the system's Imperial forces were gone, killed or claimed by the madness of chaos. In quick succession, the others flocked to Korrivar. The Space Marines, the Imperium's super soldiers, descended on Korrivar II, planning to finally cleanse the system, both of the troublesome Orcs and the Chaos Marines, the sworn mortal enemies. The Tau appeared next, not far above, on one of the planet's moons. In the interests of protecting its ordered empire from the effects of human folly, the Tau came seeking to contain the Warp Storm, and in so doing, expand the territory's border. On their moon, they built a mighty fortress, and there forged a space cannon capable of interplanetary devastation. Among the wastes of Korrivar III, the Necrons, perhaps awakened by the disruptive forces of the Warp Storm, slowly massed their lethal legions. In quick response, webway gates, long unused, flickered to life, and Eldar poured forth, ready to battle their dark, death-dealing adversaries. Meanwhile, in the shadow of an ancient portal gate, the Dark Eldar slipped stealthily out of the murky depths of the webway. They would be like carrion birds, flying above the battlefield, and when all were weary from the fight, make the battlefield into a feasting ground. Last to arrive, and perhaps most to be feared, were the Sisters of Battle, holy maidens and bearers of the God Emperor's faith. They had come to cleanse the system of corruption and filth. Their faith left them fanatical, unafraid of death and solace in their cause. Nothing here was clean. All must be purged. Now, war rages anew, and only the victorious may write their history. Only the victorious will claim the planets of Korrivar.
And there you go. Welcome to Korrivar, where everyone gets along. The Warp Storm doesn't really play any importance into the story from here on in.
Really, just window dressing.
It's
The entire precept of this really reminds me of getting a really good steak and then not just adding ketchup on top, but also like throwing mayonnaise and stuff. There's just too much going on here.
Yeah, so we've got 9 factions to choose from now. So I believe we should probably start with the big preamble about it. Relic did not work on Soulstorm in any large capacity. They might have helped with a few technical hiccups here and there. But the expansion itself was actually put into the hands of Iron Law, who made the Titan Quest game, which is a sort of like a Diablo-like action RPG with loot and stuff. It very much has like Diablo 2 DNA running through it. And in the midst of making Soulstorm, they were unable to secure funding for their next project, and so the studio was slowly wound down. I don't know if that has anything to do with some of the the bugs or anything that we will see from the game, the technical difficulties that may come across. I know everyone just cheered. I know you cheered. Don't even fucking lie. You all just fucking cheered when Indrik Boreal appeared on the fucking screen. You absolute meme children. And yeah, it's. I almost completely lost my train of thought. But the fact of the matter is, obviously, Iron Law was not around to do more work on it in the aftermath. They closed down. The founders created a new studio and started working on Grim Dawn, which is still going strong. So congratulations to those who moved on. But it has resulted in Soulstorm being a game that has mostly been left to modders to clean up. And this is a mod-free experience because I wanted to show it warts and all. So naturally, we're going in as the sisters. The game does not give anyone their own distinct personal introduction. We just go straight in. And as you can see, it's divided across 4 planets and 3 moons, so it's a very large conflict. I'm going to talk over the narrator here because she's not going to be saying anything new for the most part. You see, one of the biggest problems with Soulstorm is how it changed up the campaign mechanics. For starters, it's significantly increased the cost of a few things. In particular, your retinue things that you can purchase, they all cost way more, and I think that's just done because the map's bigger, so technically, as you play through, you'll just earn more quicker. But the other major problem is there's no longer persistence on the maps of the buildings you built. So, say you take an area and you've built up an entire full, garrison there of buildings and everything like that. In Dark Crusade, if someone attacked that, albeit around a particular space so that they could spawn the attackers' bases in, everything you put on the map was still there. Which meant that you had a defender's advantage of sorts. And that doesn't exist in Soulstorm. That's probably the biggest change that people don't like. There have been mods to try and change that as well. But again, the raw Soulstorm experience, no lube on this one. And so, as a result of this, they changed it so that you can use the production, the global requisition production you get for holding more territory and everything like that. You can use that to reinforce positions, but it also then means that you have to think more about where you spend that money because you don't get enough to be able to properly build everything up. You can also put standing units in there, so in a way it's a little fair, but at the same time, we get, you'll see the costs as we play through. This particular map will probably see them. It's really, really difficult to actually build up anything. And that comes to the next problem that comes from the game, and that is that they have now got supply lines for your territories. So what this means is every territory needs to be connected to another one that's connected to another one so that it forms a path back to your stronghold. If somewhere in the middle gets taken out, all the things that are on the wrong side of that just do not give you requisition. which is a little frustrating because there's 9 factions on the map, so you're up against 8 people, and at least one of them can do whatever the hell they want and go wherever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Chaos doesn't have to worry about the supply lines. That's their sort of thing. But I'll let you say what you want to say before I explain that.
Well, yeah, no, it's everybody who's played any kind of hex-based game before is just oh, okay, that's fine. Then you just work with the choke points and you're cool, right? You don't have to worry about it. No, you do have to worry about it. The bloody Dark Eldar can strike anywhere at any time for any reason, and they will in my limited experience playing this game, they absolutely will decide to target your worst reinforced area just to piss you off.
Yeah, in this particular, when I was trying to play through this, I was still trying to record a full campaign, the Dark Eldar made a beeline straight for my territories. And that's because you'll notice on the map we have these gates. You can see it sort of on our planet. You can see it on the moon. You can see where the Dark Eldar in purple down the bottom are. These gates are, aside from the Dark Eldar one, connected to other gates. And you can use those to travel across the lines to different worlds. And that's actually a taken hold. And see, here's the garrisons that you can make for like the strongholds and things like that. So you take those gates, and then you can use them to travel to another gate where you have to fight a battle to take that gate. And so the gates essentially become your chokehold, but they can get attacked from multiple directions. It will allow people to come in from behind. So it becomes I don't know if they were trying to encourage you to play slower, or what, because you don't get nearly enough requisition to be able to advance, build up your personal army, whilst also reinforcing the areas behind you. It makes things kind of tricky. To take the actual sites involves a battle where you have to take and hold the orange objectives, the ones you can't build listening posts on. Well, take and hold has always been a game mode in Dawn of War, and so this is one of the things I don't mind about it, is that you actually get a take and hold mission for each of those gates on either side of it. And when you take them, you have to hold them for a certain amount of time, and then you win the game. That's pretty good. I don't mind that so much, but the Dark Eldar, they can be pretty frustrating. The Dark Eldar are the exception to the rule on the warp gates. Everyone's a little bit of an exception to the rule in certain ways. The Dark Eldar are an exception to the rule because they can move from one warp gate to any warp gate. They don't travel along the lines, which is purely notable because their stronghold has one on there. And that means that they basically can start from their stronghold and just move to wherever else they want. There's only one avenue of attack to actually get to them from there. And that's down the south on the territory on the planet that only Chaos holds. So that's fun. The Sisters of Battle start up north and fighting with the Imperial Guard. The Tau, Orcs, and Space Marines are sort of in a bit of an awkward three-way, and then the Eldar and the Necrons are butting heads on another one. So the Dark Eldar can choose to go fight Chaos, or they can just piss off and fight whoever else they want.
And which also means that pretty much no matter what you're doing, Dark Eldar are going to be a problem for pretty much the majority of the campaign.
Because it takes a long time to get to them.
It just takes forever to get to the damn pricks.
And that's definitely in character for them. So
yeah,
here's the trick with the Sisters of Battle. Every faction has their own unique faction trait. And once you defeat the enemy's stronghold, you earn that trait for yourself. So if you defeat the Chaos Forces, you get the ability to not have to worry about supply lines. You defeat the Dark Eldar, you can just use the one warp gate to go to any warp gates. The Sisters of Battle subvert the whole entire concept of attacking the enemy bases. They have the ability to from the start to construct their extra buildings when you go in. So again, when we talk about all these things to spend requisition on already in this global map, and you're not getting a huge amount of it, and you've got these mechanics that you either use and suck up all your money so you can't defend your areas, or you don't use them and you put yourself in a little bit of a disadvantage because you're not using your special ability. So as it is with the thing, you can build your main barracks unit, you can build power generators, you can build your armory equivalent, and then you can build turrets. And anyone who defeats the Sisters will get that ability. And now we're going to go into our first fight, and we can actually talk about the Sisters and how they function in terms of combat. It's just a kind of a hybrid. They sort of sit in the middle, I would say, between the Imperial Guard and the Space Marines. Not just in terms of how their units get, their buildings get delivered down, being the Imperial Guard animation, but in terms of
the answer is don't think about it.
They're not as they're a little bit spicy, a little bit different, and so talking about the core mechanic behind the Sisters of Battle, we'll take a moment to look up at the top left of the screen as we always do, and you'll notice that there is an extra bar down the bottom with the fleur de lis on it. The Sisters of Battle's little flower symbol there, or violent knife flower, as I like to call it, and the entire purpose behind that is that you generate faith. And this was a thing they had when Codex Witch Hunters came out. Sisters of Battle units generated faith. Certain things in their army generated faith, and you could spend those faith points on certain abilities that required certain things that make them immune to morale, enhance their attacks in close combat, things like that. Although, by all accounts, the Sisters are not typically a close combat army. They're more like a very close ranged army.
Right. And weirdly enough, they did actually change a couple of things to make that less of a losing proposition than it's been in previous games. Because the most sharp-eyed amongst our viewers probably will have noted that even though Robokai played multiple factions with flamers, he almost never used flamers. That's not a mistake, is because in most iterations of this game, flamers are not that good. Like they're fine in their very, very small niche where you can get close to somebody, but not into melee combat with them. And then you do a decent amount of damage and you break the morale, and it's pretty good in that context. The thing is that it's pretty easy to break that context, and you're useless outside of it, right? Which posed an issue for Iron Lore when they were to add the Sisters of Battle, because even in like their codices and everything, fire is their thing. Fire is the purifying force, blah blah blah. And the Sisters of Battle fucking love fire. Like, everything about them, they love
the Imperial
fire.
cult in general has interesting ideas on salvation and forgiveness. If you've done a naughty, forgiveness comes through death, a death and penance, and fire is a very strong symbol of it.
Right. So they really needed to make it so like, using a flamer wasn't a hilarious death sentence. And there's a couple of things that they've done to accomplish that. I won't go into them because it's nerdy. Whatever, keep going, dude.
Yeah, so here we go with the actual units themselves. They have a servitor, pretty much functions exactly the same as like everybody else's servitor. Yeah, no real big change there. The first unit, however, is actually the most interesting. The missionary. The missionary is a lot like the apothecary in that from the Space Marine forces, in that they perform their best when they're joined to a squad, but they are your starting scout unit. They can detect infiltrated units. They can capture points entirely by themselves. So at the opening of the game, you've got this single model unit that has to go around scouting, not going to be able to stand up to too many others in a fight. But once you put them in a sister squad, they grant and do some upgrades to powers and get some faith up. Because in order to get faith, your faith cap up, you have to put holy icons atop your listening posts. So again, it's like one of their primary resource mechanics they've managed to tie to the expanding outwards. So you need listening posts so you can put icons on them, because that raises your cap and also generates more faith power. Because as you can see, we earn 2.8, but we don't have any room to build it. So if we build some holy icons on a limited number of listening posts, we'll up that each square. And as we build certain units or certain upgrades and things like that, we'll generate more and be able to use our powers more often, because powers that we use, such as the missionary's healing power, they take from that pool. Like, it's not just like you can just tell everybody in the squad to use it. There's an actual limit on the faith powers you can use, and that's basically you don't get a free ride, which is fun.
It's communal mana. It works better than you would expect, simply because the sisters aren't necessarily as durable as some of the truly resilient races in here or in the game, but because they have shared mana, instead of blowing your powers once and then dying before the cooldown happens, or before the cooldown comes back up again, you can throw a huge amount of faith into a specific area where a critical engagement is going on, basically to either give that extra oomph to make somebody overcome an enemy that they would otherwise succumb to, or just have them hold out long enough for reinforcements to arrive. It's actually a pretty clever way that they solved this particular issue of the sisters need to be tough, but they specifically can't be as tough as the really the really ironclad badasses of Chaos or their brother Space Marines.
It is worth noting too, you can get upgrades that allow all bolt gun weapons to ignore cover, and an upgrade for the missionary, which actually also makes all of your guns do flame damage.
Right.
So the missionary, although they're a single model thing, they cost a single a part of your troop cap to create, to research. They can still be fairly handy in making your sisters punch far above their weight, and they will punch very far above their weight. The basic sisters unit, with its flamethrowers and the upgrades they can get for their flamethrowers to bless them and make them stronger. They can also wield heavy bolters, and their heavy bolters, again, are bolt gun type weapons, so they get to ignore cover when you upgrade them. So the sisters themselves are a unit that hangs stuff throughout the entirety of the game, the same way the Space Marines would, but for different reasons, which I kind of appreciate. And they can get a sergeant type, the Seraphim. Sorry, not the Seraphim. The Sister Superior, and I was about to talk about the Seraphim, though, because the Seraphim are a pretty interesting unit. I don't think I've built one yet, but I'll get there. We'll just... ignoring the point going in. So here's the other quirk of the Sisters. They don't have conventional gun turrets the way other factions do. They have, on their listening posts, they have heavy flamethrowers.
What are you doing?
Yeah, all their other dudes turned around, and then when you upgrade it further, you get stronger. I think they get equipped with multi-meltas at that point, which are strong anti-tank weapons as well. And now we've started to build the sisters' vehicle stuff, and so that gets pretty exciting. Though I would like to hopefully start building some other things so I can talk about them. There was a glitch on launch, and I will attempt to do it at some point here and fail. Because I don't know if it's fixed or if I was doing it wrong, but you can essentially generate infinite resources with the sisters by building an upgrade, cancelling it, and you would get refunded more for, more back than you spent. So people could just, mash build cancel really, really quickly and just, cheat themselves ridiculous amounts of money.
That's why I was so confused about what the hell you were doing with that fortified position. I forgot about that bug.
Yeah. Other things that the sisters can do is they can build blood speakers. As you notice, the cap's going up now. I've actually got because I built 3 holy icons. I now actually have a filling cap. And the Canoness herself as a leadership unit is again, she's close combat. She's not as strong or as powerful, but she gets some interesting faith abilities, including the ability to just summon I think it's 6 or 8 holy angels that are temporarily available but completely invincible. And just fly around chopping everything up for a little bit of time. Wonderful distractions, but it is kind of interesting that that's a thing. Now I'm building a Seraphim squad. The Seraphim are always very interesting. They're a jump pack troop squad. But unlike pretty much every single other jump pack troop squad in the game, you don't send them into melee. You send them almost to melee. What you get is a squad full of sisters who are all packing they're all packing a pair of bolt pistols. So they jump out of the sky, bolt pistols akimbo, just blamming the shit out of everybody. And one of the quirks in Dawn of War that makes them so interesting in that regard is that they very rapidly do damage to infantry, and they also do not suffer a penalty to accuracy while they move. Now remember, that's a big thing. If you want to run your troops away, when you're running your troops away and you don't want to get shot, say that's the Canoness can also as one of her earlier ones shoot a big old beam of light out that blinds the enemies and lowers their accuracy and things like that. The Seraphim are kind of crazy in that they are extremely fast jump troops. So if your unit gets caught out and you try to flee and a Seraphim squad jumps on your infantry as they're fleeing, kiss them goodbye, because they can run them down like nobody's business. They're fantastic for that. The weaknesses, of course, they require a higher amount of micro to get the most out of, because the enemy can counter them by moving into close combat with them.
They make for the Seraphims were frequently considered just basically the hard counter to both Eldar and Tau forces, though, because all of those flankers and very fast sorts of people. If you opened up a flank on their flank with Seraphims, oh my god, it was a complete nightmare.
Yeah, they're pretty fantastically and strong. They have a Rhino, And you can put like loudspeakers like with upgrades on the vehicles, which can like boost your morale, hurt the enemies. I forget what exactly the terms of it are, but you've got them on buildings, and you can get them on vehicles as well, and it's kind of funny in that regard. Basically, just like big prayer being spewed out everywhere. In terms of vehicles, you've got the Rhino for your transport needs, which is all well and good. I'll never build it. I've already made very clear how I feel about like your standard transport unit. Not really that necessary in this game. What I've started to build is one of the 2 famous vehicles. Actually, you know, I'm going to say one of the 3 famous vehicles of the Sisters of Battle. 2 being Rhino variants, the other being a fucking atrocity on fucking legs.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first one is
tank.
The Immolator, which is a Rhino tank with a turret on top, which can either have twin-linked heavy flamers, so you're driving around setting everybody on fire, or it can be a twin-linked multi-melter, which means that you drive up generally close to your enemy, risking your Rhino armored unit with the opportunity to get shot a lot by your enemy's anti-tank thing. But the trade-off is it pumps out a lot of damage fairly rapidly, and you can get an upgrade on it, which just makes it stop and spin in place, spewing flames like 360 degrees around itself at a very blistering pace, which means that you basically just drive it straight into the enemy and then just spin to win.
It would be comical if it weren't so horrifying. By the way, it's still comical.
It's still very comical. You'll see me use it during the stronghold because like I don't think I use it here, and then I'm like, wait a minute, let me just try this out. Oh my god, what am I doing? So as you can see here, the Imperial Guard General was attacking the Seraphim, and so I had to back him out. And then, you know, during that time, everyone shot him in the flame, and things set him on fire. I've also started building a Celestine squad. So we talk about the Sister Superiors being the leaders of your various squads. A Celestine squad is made up entirely of Sister Superiors. And I guess, you know, one amongst them is the Superior Sister Superior. They're one of the units that can generate purity for you, because you can equip them with a... like, they call it an imagifier, which is a funny way to say it's a holy relic. They carry around a holy relic. The unit that holds the holy relic does not attack. It exists to basically give your units more health pool. There's the lightning fighter. I'll talk about it in a second. The Celestines are your heavy weapon infantry, though. They will get meltas and multi-meltas as weapons, which is just different flavors of I set your tank on fire, it dies. Again, another close-range weapon, more effective the closer it is on the tabletop. Oh god, now I'm building everything quickly. The lightning fighter is a part of the new thing added by Iron Law to Dawn of War to try and spice things up. They're a flying unit. Every single faction in the game gets a flying unit, so the new units for every faction is some form of unit that flies. What this means is that they ignore terrain completely, and on top of this, they still sort of have weird interactions in terms of being vehicles. They still technically operate on the plane of, like, the ground. So if they fly over, like, uneven terrain that's, like, not normally supposed to have, like, a vehicle or anyone anywhere near it, because obviously the map wasn't designed that way, it will just basically tilt in the direction of that terrain. So I don't... And it will still behave like a vehicle in terms of hitbox and moving through units and things like that. So if you go back and you watch the intro where it shows the Tau gun and you see those ships flying past, you'll see them occasionally sort of stop and stutter because they're getting in each other's way before, like, moving across the terrain and slightly turning to alter their path before they keep going. As well, those things where it's like it looks really good, and then you squint at and you go, oh no, oh no, now I know the forbidden knowledge. This is bad.
It doesn't get any better from there.
And unfortunately, in terms of what they bring to the table, most of the flying vehicles kind of suck. Like the Sisters Lightning Fighter in particular is kind of like it's kind of anti-infantry, but kind of sucks too.
I mean, yeah, like the general rule for fighters or flying units for all of the factions is that they're not worth the money that you pay for them, but that won't stop people from using them because despite the fact that they're unlikely to actually remove anything from the board anytime soon, they can nip at the sides where folks feel compelled to deal with them. So even in multiplayer, away from the AI and the random acts of artificial so-called intelligence, a lot of human players would frequently build one or two fighters just to go attack your workers at your base or something while a major fight was going on. It was very much. It's a very much like my disdain for using mines in these games. The traditional way of using mines is not to actually win; it's to not lose, and that's kind of a lot of the way that fighters are frequently used. Is less to win the game and more just to annoy the piss out of you until you win over and slugged the asshole using it at the LAN party.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. I try to show them off a little throughout the game, as I was playing, but I didn't get a huge amount of them. The Death Cult Assassin that I built is another unit that I don't rate very highly, for a few reasons. The firstly is it's not an overly strong unit. Its major function is if your opponent gets below I think it's like a 25% health threshold, she can instantly kill them. And I believe that counts for individual models in a squad as much as it counts for like commander characters and things like that. Just like blaring music everywhere. I just kept pressing that button. So they're always infiltrated. I was just scouting with this one. I don't care if she dies. I just built it to show her off, so it's like I can talk about her. They're just not very good. I imagine someone may be able to tell me how they're good or not. But it's like a lot of commander units will have some form of detection anyway. In particular, and also the Imperial Guard have a scanner similar to the Terrans in StarCraft, so it's just like, yeah. And because it's the AI, they know exactly where your infiltrated units are at all times, so they just go bye. And now we've got the Sisters Repentia. I talked about how they primarily aren't a close combat unit. That is, that is not all true. They do have some. The Witch Hunters actually had a few different kind of close combat units. They had the Arco-Flagellants, who are people who are basically turned into just turned into people seeking desperate penance by having their arms replaced with all manner of horrific weapons and charging buck naked into the enemy. Similarly, the Sisters Repentia are sisters who have in some way violated the rules. They broke the rules. They messed up, they goofed, the rules were broken, and so they allow themselves to be put in a squad of sisters who are led by a sister superior who is known as, I think, the Mistress, and she has a pair of power whips, and they don't wear as much armor, they wear some armor, and they wield gigantic chainsaws that have the same sort of qualities as a power fist, and it doubles their strength and just chews through everything it touches. But is also very slow and unwieldy to use. On the tabletop, the Sisters Repentia weren't that great because obviously the problem is, the enemy will shoot them to death rather than let them get close, and they're not that survivable in close combat. They have less of that concern in Soulstorm, so they're actually quite an effective close combat unit.
Their only real problem here is that they don't have a mobility power. Something like the Howling Banshees, which is their closest equivalent, is they'll have fleet of foot. The Sisters Repentia don't ever get anything anything like that. But
they have that. I think you might notice that icon on there. They can, I believe that does increase their speed as well as their attack damage, but it does cost them health to have it activated.
Yeah, I was gonna Holy. I don't think I might be wrong on this one. I don't think Holy Fervor increases their movement speed. I think it's mostly just their other damage output. But as you were saying, as you just said, I never really used the power regardless because
you're destroying their health in a game where everyone's chewing up everyone's health.
Yeah, everybody is kicking everybody else's ass full time, and the bleed that they get from having Holy Fervor on is not inconsiderable.
Yeah,
so
you need a missionary with them, keeping their health up to top to get the most out of them. We also built the secondary commander, the Archdeacon. That's right, he's the Archdeacon. So he's a sort of a caster type commander. You know, you attach him to a unit, he boosts the leadership of everyone, like the morale of everyone around him, and he has a few faith-based powers that allow him to, like, you know, drop faith bombs on everybody and like destroy large swaths of the scenery.
We are servants of the
He's you know, he's all right. He does have some cute comments and lines throughout the game, but honestly, like, in terms of, like, their function, I always feel like the sisters themselves are the main characters of the army, and, like, the squads more than, like, the canoness and the deacon. And I, like, because, like, you get to see them going, you know, the Seraphim have little halos playing around their heads. Everyone's, like, standing there with these wonderful, like, just flamethrower weapons, and, like, you know, the giant chain swords and everything like that. They're very much a crazy holy army. One unit I haven't built yet, which I'm kind of surprised, is the Exorcist. I haven't built it. I'm gonna build it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you definitely already have one Exorcist out. You were playing with it earlier, but you just built another, so you'll have more time to mess with it.
Yeah. So, like, I'll talk about the Relic unit, since we built it now. The Living Saint. The Living Saint is a thing you don't really want to talk about in, like, the Warhammer universe, because the implications of its existence implies that it is possible for the Emperor to have demonic princes.
Yeah.
There is one major official Living Saint in the lore, the Codex encouraged you to, if you wanted to, just rename her to someone else. If you want to have it as someone else, I believe her name was Celestine as well, which, you know, caused all sorts of confusion. But in this case, it's a generic one, and so she's a close combat. She's got a few AOE attacks, and a really sort of funny gimmick where if she dies, there's a 50% chance she just gets back up again. I see it not proc whenever I use it, and proc whenever somebody else uses it, to give you an idea of what kind of those kinds of abilities are.
It's more or less Living Saint.txt.
Yeah, but she is quite strong, and she will take a lot of enemy fire as a result. Those other things I'm building, you saw, I mentioned that there are 2 more vehicles that are very Sister of Battle iconic. The Walker I am building is the Penitent Engine.
Jesus.
The Penitent Engine is limited by the game to you only being allowed to build 2 of them. And there's a very, very freaking good reason for that. You know, one of the defining traits of walkers in Dawn of War is that they, generally speaking, move at a slow to medium pace. And there's the Exorcist. The Exorcist is a pipe organ that shoots missiles on the back of a rhino. It's your artillery. However, you can also get an ability to launch hunter-killer missiles. So it sort of pulls off like armor and like anti-infantry, anti-armor. The hunter-killer missile is on a cooldown, but is extremely powerful. So it's very long range as well. So always have a couple of those.
I've always low-key suspected that the Doofwagon from Fury Road was partially based off of an Exorcist.
But yes, here they are, the Penitent Engines. Here's why the Penitent Engines are scary. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that speed they're going at. You have now got a Dreadnought that moves, like, very, very fast. Like,
faster than most infantry.
It will run you down.
it will not stop.
And again, this was a unit that wasn't that great on the tabletop, but in here, it's terrifying.
It's horrifying.
It will chase you down. It will chew through your armor. Good fucking luck. On the tabletop, it was an open-top vehicle. And the idea behind the Penitent Engine is basically the person in there who was a very, very horrible person. And so the only penance they get is dying. They're intended to die. That's why the cockpit is open top, so that they get shot. But the idea is that frame will be recovered afterwards, and they can slap a new monster in there afterwards. And that's really just the Sisters of Battle in a nutshell. They are incredibly strong. They have some incredibly handy and interesting powers that I didn't entirely show off there, but I'll try to show off a little bit more when we do the Imperial Guard Stronghold. And they're just fun. Like, I'm gonna say it now. Out of all of the factions in Soulstorm, I do think I like the sisters because they're very simple to use, but have a lot of like cool quirks that make them quite enjoyable. Like, they're very, very flavorsome, and that in itself can be even more important than like anything else in the game. As long as they get the sense of flavor right, they're actually quite fun, and that's like the most work in Soulstorm has definitely gone into the 2 new factions being added. If the campaign has problems, I can definitely say, aside from, you know, the whoops, we gave you infinite resources bug. I'm pointing at the Rosarius because the Rosarius is the reason why a lot of problems happen. But yes, once you acquire all the war gear, your Canoness basically just becomes a walking saint. So. And, you know, you get all sorts of really cool stuff. I love the Sisters' helmets, by the way. They have the coolest fucking
They really
helmets.
do. They have a very strong hat game.
Look at that. Got the Rosarius on it. And we will spend a bit of time during the Stronghold talking about the history of the Sisters. We've talked about them a little bit before in Dawn of War 2 Let's Play, I think we did. And a lot of people sort of, you know, corrected us on a few details. We'll try and get them right this time when we talk about them, because I'm going to pull out my Witch Hunter's Codex, because obviously I have it. And it is a loving retelling of the Age of Apostasy, the rise of the Sisters of Battle, the codification of the arms militant of the Ecclesiarchy, and a little bit about Sebastian Thor as well, and the Inquisition and the establishment of the Witch Hunters. All very key components of the Sisters of Battle. And I would be remiss at mentioning, actually, the Sisters of Battle as they're implemented here in Soulstorm was not actually the first iteration of the Sisters seen in a Dawn of War game. There's actually a mod, and it is also in the Unification mod, so I could possibly show it off as well. Incredibly, ridiculously, highly detailed models, but it is a more Witch Hunters style Sisters of Battle army. So you have access to like Inquisitors, Arcoflagellants, Arbites, things like that. But like the detail on it is absolutely ridiculous. There was also actually a full Demon Hunters one as well. Like 2 full races made with modding before Soulstorm even happened, and they have been ported over. So maybe we'll take a look at those as well with the Unification mod. No promises. This is always going to depend on how much Soulstorm and the mods want to behave together. But as you can see, now that I've taken this territory, I can now start slapping down garrisons, which include, you know, a basic squad, immolators, servitors, and the Seraphim. Which is, you know, that's not bad. Like, if someone attacks that, you could wipe them out very quickly in a retaliation. So it's not a bad idea to have it. And I am sort of more or less right next to the Imperial Guard, so they are going to probably lash out on me at some point. And then the game's going to talk about the enemy turn, but we don't really care about that at that point. So what we'll be doing next time is tucking into the Imperial Guard Stronghold, because the Imperial Guard Stronghold is aside from being having a lot going on, in terms of like one of the things I'd say it does better than the Stronghold. It does like some things better in Strongholds than Dark Crusade did, and it does a few things worse. So it's kind of an interesting sort of, you know, dichotomy, and so we'll be examining that in the next video, and I am very much sort of looking forward to that, because I know a lot of the Imperial Guard people. I always talk about the Imperial Guard people. They're wonderful people. Put the las guns down. They're all very fond of advanced stubs. And that's that's sweet of them. That's very sweet of them to say so, because the Stronghold does open with quite possibly one of the most mind-blenderingly amazing what the fucks, and it's kind of like it's a really good indication of perhaps a little less oversight from Games Workshop on what was going on in this game, and also perhaps a little less understanding from Iron Lore as to the lore they were working with. So, I'm not going to say what it is. Everybody knows what it is, the same way you all fucking clapped when Commander Boreal appeared on screen, and you went, I know that guy! He's the guy that goes, Space Marines! We have failed.
Oh my god. Freaking bits.
One half of the Bald Brothers.
One half of the Bald Brothers, indeed.
Not that Van Stubbs couldn't be part of the Bald Brothers, but he's not a Space Marine, so he gets opted out.
Correct.
It's very unfortunate for him. So, I've been the last Robo-Kai.
And I have been Cool Guy.
And we'll see you all next time when we do the Imperial Guard Stronghold. And we see what Vance Stubbs has made a big whoopsie on. And why that causes us so much pressure when we try to complete the campaign.